risen in priority.
We're going into this one, the first best of 5 today, losers bracket final for the group stages now. So whilst you can sit back a little bit and not knowing the fact that there's not too much, there's no lives at stake in this game in particular, this is going to show a lot of what Citadel Gaming are hoping to do. And I think Insomnia GG, they're going to have a couple of aces up their sleeve. They had a lot of really good prep from Minty and Arya in their series up against OG Seed. That was a quick turnaround. They've had a couple of days to prep for this. And the Jeff Instaban is a very good counter to Citadel because that's usually their first pick.
Yes, it is. Being taken away. Not going to be dealing with that, but it's going to be a one-sided Jeff pickup now for Insomnia. Trying to make sure that Citadel don't get that big speed boost potential to really rotate around the map quickly. And of course, if there's a Venom going to be in play, Passivo is more than comfortable. We've seen teams maybe try and bait out Venom bans, but so far it's only really been slipping in near the end of drafts.
Speaking the start of drafts for Citadel Gaming, for their first ban, that's 10 for 10. Always Mantis, no matter what. And then usually it's like maybe an Ultron, maybe an Adam. They're going to actually go for the one-sided Ultron themselves, which you've got Melio in the server again. So Pokey, again, sitting on the sidelines for the 3rd series in a row. Feels that that's naturally going to be the character that he picks up in this lineup. Whilst Mantis, it was left open for Citadel Gaming. They decided that they didn't want to go for that main anchor triple strategist that Mantis is.
That Ultron on the board, like you say, Mantis taken out on both sides. There is actually going to be that Venom ban in the mirrored ban spot. Citadel not going to leave it right until the end this time. They've seen the Jeff. They've already taken out the Adam Warlock and the Mantis of their own side. They realize how big of a threat this Jeff can be with Symbiotic Shenanigans team up, and they actually rise the priority of that Venom ban to kind of mirror that and protect it.
Yeah, they're going to go for the protect themselves, even though that they won't have that Jeff team up. Venom is still a terrific character. And certainly knowing that there is a bit of a head-to-head for Enzo and Polly can play the Venom now. Going up against Passivo, who... it was the coach yesterday that was saying that just like his pathing was perfect with some of those dives. Like, they couldn't be any more efficient and clean, which is hard to do. But Passivo has been in that kind of form. The one-sided Invisible Woman is a possibility for Insomnia. Considering that you have got Line Pro that is an Invisible Woman extraordinaire, it seems like a good option potentially, knowing that you're going up against a Venom 2. Force Physics is very good at making sure that Enzo or Polly could run into a few more issues if they try to disengage.
I believe the coach yesterday was Dennis, so the Dennis seal of approval. There is going to be that Invisible Woman one-sided protect from Insomnia, leaving Citadel. They've managed to get themselves a one-sided Venom, meaning they can go in for a little bit of backline harass with some Ultron healing to keep some sustain going. Where do they go from here? They make sure that they guarantee a one-sided Ultron so that that aerial domination is going to be picked up by Citadel.
I'm not judging.
We've seen a couple of times, actually, a rise of the Hulk 4th ban, because that Namor team-up can be a bit irritating. And I remember, like, granted, you have got the Venom available and Emma Frost is always good. I do remember Enzo. There it is. I was just about to... He's like, he can hear me. He was actually, like, potentially pulling out the the Hulk himself. That's how, like, connected he is to the character. But I guess the main thing is you have the option now.
It is available to them. We're starting off. Reminder, these are best of 5s now. So we have plenty of opportunities for these teams to go through. We'll have multiple opportunities where domination could be picked up instead of it just being the first round here. Symbiotic Surface, though, a very chaotic map. All of the points are fought very differently. There's a lot of high ground, for example, on the Codex, so it's very different where you actually choose to take these initial engagements. We're already seeing rockets on both sides being used as a little bit of pre-armor for the first fight.
Might be a little bit more for Citadel Gaming, as we were highlighting, right? That they do stick on that rocket. Depends on who's actually on it. Ken? Yeah, potentially.
That's possible.
I've got Tanuki on the Star-Lord as well, so it does look like they're going to be running like a 2-2-2, 2 Vanguards, 2 Strategists, 2 Duelists. And yeah, they're sort of going for this lineup, but you haven't got the pest control. Instead, you've got Alex and Ken, double strategist. Is that enough healing?
Yeah. Ironically, we are kind of going for pest control, but it's Ultron considering everyone else to be made of flesh. So they are going to be running that, whereas Insomnia, they're going to be sticking with the classic triple strategist backline with Invisible Woman and the Luna, with that Jeff as a little bit extra. Passivo moving off of the Venom as it was banned out. We'll be bringing in Captain America. Polly, also on the cap, has been taken out, so they went with an incredibly aggressive frontline here.
This is a hard point to play the Star Lord on too, because you want to be up with a Galactic Legend, and you've got that little cubby, that little hover hole that you can just hide on the side of point if you need to. But it's still Citadel Gaming contesting this. They were a player down in this engagement, but they've managed to turn it around. In fact, the player that got eliminated first was Polly. He comes in, gets his revenge onto 2, and it seems like it's going to be Citadel Gaming taking the point first.
This is very much starting to look to be a Star Lord meta as we continue on here. A quick retreat coming in, but he's so mobile. Jeff is so hard to chase down, but Star Lord is one of the characters that can do so. As Citadel, they will finally take control of the first point, as Insomnia were able to delay that extremely long.
Now Insomnia trying to see what they can sort of build up almost. But the Rage of Ultron is going to be used. It could be used preemptively for Alex here, but it is also the fact that because you don't have the access to a Luna or anything, you might want to use it in a more supportive... Nope, never mind. He is going to use it on the offensive. It's a good block, actually, from the EMEA barrier to stop some of that damage coming through, but it was looking pretty decent for Insomnia, especially off the back of the pick, if it wasn't for Melio actually getting a trade.
But this is such a short cooldown. We do often see these Ultron players burning the cooldown quite quickly. Relaxing Sky picked off from the dive of Enzo, and the point is being zoned down as well. Passimo, unable to sustain on through, is actually going to be chased all the way back and might get picked off. Yes, Enzo with the chase. And Citadel, they are in control. They're utilizing the great hyper-aggression of Tanuki, Polly, and Enzo, while Alex Melio just ping away at everyone who actually steps out and shows their face from Insomnia. And Ken, well, he's just hitting right-click.
And Insomnia sort of doing themselves no favors, trying to play together, close quarters, but you can just see how spread out Citadel Gaming are. You need to isolate a pick, but there's so much sustain on this team, even with one less strategist. Stuff like Freedom Charge is going to be helpful in these moments, but you've got to fate of both worlds used as an engagement tool, actually catching out Alex, who was 90% away from having his ultimate. The Be Right Back does bring him back into this engagement, and the Yarn Amplifier is going to just provide a little bit more for Citadel Gaming to work with.
Here's the mirror, though, from Tanuki. The Freedom Chargers keeping them topped up with all that bonus health. They're staying in the path, but the focus is just too much. Twinsie goes down, Passimo goes down, and we're at 92%. Line Pro already onto the Strange to try and contest this, but Citadel are in full control of the point. Rocket up on the high ground, making sure that Melio is safe, just pocketing him at this point. Zyonic Seduction to try and create some kind of zoning, but the Rage of Ultron is just raining down pain from above. Forever falls, Relaxing Sky falls, and it's just one by one here.
Something, yeah, it's rough for Insomnia. I think on pretty much all of these engagements, forever, the Emma Frost has been going down first. First elimination. But it's more like just as the fights were starting, you lose one of your vanguards and the rest of the team starts to just fall away because the Emma takes so much focus, so much damage mitigation. You lose her. That's a lot of stuff that Citadel Gaming are throwing at you damage-wise, and because they're not running triple strategist and running 2 duelists, naturally, they do a lot more damage. It is the fact that they're running this like Ultron and Rocket Raccoon, where people would say that that's just not enough healing to keep people alive. There's only been 3 eliminations against them on that first point.
And if we actually have a look at the healing spread here, 4.2k for Alex is actually very good for an Ultron. Ken at 6k, just a little bit ahead, about 400 ahead of the other 2 strategists, but the fact is, his team is still able to clean people out so quickly that that healing isn't actually mattering that much.
Also not doing too much damage, which...
No, like 600, yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, it pretty much is just like the Ultron able to actually compete with the duelists with the damage output that he's putting in. But it is just that pivot, right? Insomnia clearly wanting to make sure that Citadel Gaming, they know that Citadel Gaming play around the Jeff, take that out, instant pivot for, okay, we don't have Jeff, we're going Ultron. And it just looks just as good, if not better, than what we've seen from Citadel on the Jeff too.
Polly already going to be pulling out the Freedom Charge, committing to try and get some zoning nice and early, which Twinsie, who's moved over to that Namor, is being forced to use that Aquatic Blessing to back out, but Passimo is the one who is suffering for this. They are the one who's getting focused down. Here comes the Ensom Inferno with Twinsie. They know they're going to get taken by this. Relaxing Sky will be the one to fall. Forever is taken down second, and once again, second they get the first pickup, it is an avalanche for Citadel.
Really hasn't been too much of a test for Citadel, not only for like this series so far, granted it's only a couple of points, but even in their game yesterday, pretty much their qualifying game for playoffs too. Ever since they lost to Chop, they haven't really set a note wrong. The only time was when they sort of went for this fight up against Foot. They went for that strange teleporter play with the Adam Warlock, and it looked a little bit more dicey, but that Citadel Gaming isn't on show today. They're very, very clean, and now Pasewell swapping over towards the Hulk, going for that team up with the gamma radiation, but before they can even set up for an engagement, their whole back line is gone.
And this is the issue. Citadel Gaming just have so much control over these choke points, and they're choosing the fights with such quick flow of sacrificing their own healing for DPS output. You can see that Rocket is actually one of the highest DPS strategists in the game. Problem is their projectiles are so slow. Their fire rate, however, is incredible. So when it comes to chasing down enemies that are only moving on one axis or getting up close, Rocket is insane for burst. So if you're going for a quick snowball, a rush down composition, Rocket is fitting in beautifully while also offering a damage boost when you actually want to take these bigger fights.
Yeah, it's just very divey, very pacey. It's hard to get any CC onto characters for Citadel Gaming to actually do some lethal damage off the back of it. And, you know, watching Ken's perspective, you could sort of see why. Yeah, I've got the It's Jeff being used from Nocturne. Now Paso also going World Breaker Hulk to see if he can catch a little bit more and just keep engaging onto this point. But it hasn't looked like there's anything that's super scary inside for Citadel Gaming yet, especially off the back of this Freedom Charge. I don't think anybody's going to go down.
The Freedom Charge keeping everyone topped up. The Horde of Proteus was sent out, finds nothing. Twitzy falls. The Invisible Boundary comes out not in time. And with it completely zoned off the point, we once again see Citadel approaching 99%. And with Insomnia having no defensive abilities left, this Galactic Legend is going to come in completely uncontested. And that is going to be point number 2 likely taken. A portal is coming in to try and contest. But there's so little that can be done. They don't even make it.
It's not the best luck for Insomnia, but at the same time, like Citadel Gaming, Berber Patspin were always known as a really good domination team, and they've clearly found something around playing this 2-2-2 with, honestly, just the tertiary strategists that seems to be working well for them. And I think we even saw Trust Me from Navi saying something similar of like running those kind of comps is like, it's doable, it's hard, we just want to get some like official practice. And it seems the Citadel Gaming went, great idea, we're about to do the same.
And the fact is, it is working forever. While they went down pretty consistently first in those fights, they actually were a big chunk of their team's actual final hits. And that's a problem, because it means, well, Forever is basically being able to take 1v1s, lock down someone, and then go for a duel. Who's protecting the backline? Passimo's trying their best. They're giving as much protection as they can. They have the Hulk, but Citadel are just too fast. They're moving past those frontliners, and there's not enough contention to stop that mobility.
There's been a lot of these kind of instances, I suppose, where, you know, like I said before, the first point, a couple of these engagements, Forever was dying first, and it wasn't necessarily their fault. But in a lot of cases, it's just too much damage for the strategists to keep going. But also, Relaxing Sky was just under constant barragement, and there's not really a good way to fight back. Sure, you have a little bit of CC with, like, the Ice Blast, but every character from Citadel moves at 100 miles an hour, so good shot, like, good job trying to hit those shots themselves.
An amazing setup by Citadel, taking the first game in this best of 5. Insomnia, they've got their work cut out for them. Remember, they are safe, but this is still a very important seeding game, because you could go up against, from that other group, Na'Vi or VP, if you find yourself, whichever one loses in that next round. That's a tough opponent. You want to be able to avoid that. Or, of course, FaZe as well, who we've been talking about just consistently rising up the board.
It's just not the first opponent that you want to run into, but it is a full best of 5, and Insomnia are clearly a very strong team when it comes to doing their homework. Now they have their map choice, but before we see whether it's going to be Convergence or Convoy, we're going to go for a break before we get back into some more of the action, so we'll see you in a few.
Smokescreen! I'm hunkering down. Judge! Jury! Executioner!
We heard from Insomnia for their qualifying game to playoffs that, ironically, a team called Insomnia didn't get much sleep when it came to the preparation of their opponent OG Seed, but that preparation went a long way in actually qualifying them to playoffs. Now they're up against a squad that everybody wants to take a swing at, the EMEA champions of Citadel Gaming, who are currently 1-0 up. You have the map choice. You've seen the response to what Citadel were doing with the draft when you try and take out the Jeff. What's going to be the next move for this very prepared team?
It's a great question, especially as Citadel are just consistently keeping everyone on their toes. We've really gone on about it, but that rocket coming in, but something we didn't actually mention that much is the team up with Star-Lord. Having that extra mobility from the old friends is what the team up is called, but giving Star-Lord that teleporter means Star-Lord can play significantly more aggressive. Something that, without that astral jump, has been extremely limited to teams playing it with a Magneto that has started to fall down in terms of the pick priority.
And for the pick priority for at least convergence maps for Citadel Gaming, it's actually been pretty one-sided with how it's been approached. It's been Mantis, Ultron, Adam for every single first to third ban, and then Hulk, Magneto depending on the context. But this is also one of the maps that they lost against Chopped. It was to the wire. But this is maybe where that change could potentially come in. The Mantis has been banned out and the Protectors come straight in onto the Jeff, so Citadel still get to play around it. But Insomnia, what's the next course of action? Because they could have banned out Jeff, they did last time. They thought, we'd rather deal with Jeff than Ultron.
Very true. For good reason. Melio is one of the best hit scan players in the game right now, so taking away that Ultron is very sensible. And now they see Jeff on the other side, they actually pick up the Ultron of their own. When you try to go for its Jeff, a big part is, being able to get away once you have swallowed several people. You can't almost ever eat Ultron because he's always going to be too high up, and the Insephora Ray is very good at picking off fleeing Jeffs.
So here again, it feels like you can't do anything about the Ultron. Instead, they're going something that I don't think we've actually seen them do before currently, which is going for like a pretty early Jean Grey ban. These bans are together, so neither team really knows what the other's about to do. But I imagine that the Mantis is not in play. Maybe you want to get rid of the Jeff, but you know that they're playing around Ultron. Maybe you just go, you can have the Jeff if you want. Like, we're going to take out some of your more offensive options.
Very sensible here. The Venom gone once again. Both teams now really starting to prioritize these Venom bans when your opponents have that Jeff. It's one of the most important parts of the Jeff kit. So a very sensible removal, but Adam Warlock is still available for Citadel if they want to get a third strategist. They could try and snipe that in with their Protect. Invisible Woman protected for Insomnia.
For Citadel Gaming, the final ban before you go in for a Protect with this cascading style, Insomnia pretty much, instead of going for the Jeff Invis, going for the Ultron Invis, basically whichever main third strategist they can go for. This does sort of make sense, really, just making sure that you don't allow that to happen, especially because you haven't banned out the Venom either.
Very true. So where do we see Citadel? Where does their Protect want to be? In theory, Insomnia could try and ban out Captain America as well, but no, Citadel, they're going to be protecting the Jean Grey for themselves, going to get themselves with that Ultron taken away, a one-sided Jean, which of course they can give over to Melio, and he'll have a pretty solid time with that. On the other side, there goes the Star-Lord. That combo, little bit scary, so it's a pretty solid remove here, because they still have that Jeff available.
Yeah, and I think when we are seeing so much like triple strategist, I think Star-Lord has sort of cemented himself as maybe not the strongest option, but like the most well-rounded. Just with how mobile he can be, that he has these kind of invulnerability frames, and of course an ultimate that's great to just wait for all of these strategist ults to be used from Insomnia. Everything gets used, they have no more safety net. That's when the Galactic Legend starts to shine. And also the other options that we're seeing, like Jean Grey, they don't have available to them due to Insomnia. Human Torch was also an option that we did see hovered right at the end. Star-Lord is terrific against Torch or Storm or any flying form of duelist.
There is something else that I do want to mention, and that is the fact that Citadel have managed to find themselves here with the option for a one-sided Luna, and Adam Warlock was not touched by either team. So if we want to see that light and dark armor, it's a great hit scan option for Melio. They have that as an alternative option as well. But it looks like to start off, we're going to be seeing an extremely fishy opening for Citadel. Oh, there is, in fact, that Adam.
Starts in 5, 4, 3.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, we've not really seen... Adam was banned out, at least from Citadel in the last game. Seeing if they want to try and make it work. But here it seems that it's going to be, yeah, that triple strategy still. It's going to be Twitzy that's over on the torch, just suppressive fire from Insomnia on their defense, farming up a supernova as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Pazuo's just going to get a good chunk of change, disengages from the fight, so he's not really at risk. But Nocta's going in. He's completely behind them. It's a merry-go-round.
They are trying to control the sky, do what Citadel did last
What a
round.
catch.
And they are actually able to get that human torch out the air. Ends over. Beautiful setup here. But again, Nocta, like you say, is pretty much uncontested back here. But Citadel don't care. Their sight is directly forward, and they are smashing through here. That torch is strong, but it doesn't matter. That Ultron is strong, but it doesn't matter if they're alone. They cannot win 1v6.
It felt that Citadel knew that there was going to be some elements of mobility. So yeah, again, having a gamma radiation team up between Namor and Hulk, it's just an extra turret that mows you down if it's uncontested. But also the likes of Jeff and Adam, frankly, can snipe you up the air if they need to. It's a terrifying prospect. And now it's one of the fastest takes that we've seen from Citadel Gaming on that first point.
They literally just ran on through, and they're continuing to pile on the pressure. Look at the positioning from Tanuki. Not going to be trying to set up on high grounds. They're making sure they're as close to a wall as possible so that if the torch tries to step out, it's forced to move into range of squids. Here comes the move out from Polly to try and punish the dive forward, but Nocta, with that range of Ultron, is able to get the pickup onto Melio, who can revive here, but is nowhere near Karmic Revival. With that, it's going to be a triple. Melio will just wait and spawn in the normal spot.
I mean, it's a good point for Insomnia to take control back of this main area. Otherwise, Citadel Gaming could be setting a very good side timer-wise. It was still less than 5 minutes on the clock after taking that first one so quickly. And Citadel Gaming aren't going to be too worried about it. They have some good ultimates being built up. Insomnia GG gaining control back, especially when you have that supernova on the horizon. Twitzy just needs to make sure that he's not another first elimination. Instead, it's going to be Nocta that gets taken.
That damage output from those monstros doing so much work. Horde of Proteus to try and catch the Cloak and Dagger in the building, but they actually will survive that. Relaxing Sky able to sneak away, but they're pretty rough positioning-wise. Could be picked up, and Line Pro trying to save the day, but taken out by Melio with the burst. It's a double, and Adam Warlock is trying to revive this push for Citadel, and he is on fire. That's a triple for Melio.
That's why he got brought onto this team. Put into this system. I think he's pretty much exclusively played strategists for this squad, but it's the fact that he can be so lethal and dangerous on it when you already have players like Tanuki at the same time that could do something similar. But these catches, actually, like the CC that comes in onto Insomnia, it means that Pazuo needs to be maybe a little bit more conservative, and Insomnia want to try and go for this fight fairly quickly. I haven't noticed where Melio is. He's kind of on an island, and I don't know if he's going to be too long for this world, but I'm not seeing that HP drop in the UI.
Jeff gets a snipe. Ken escaping. Doesn't want to go too far, though. Just seems to want to try and get an isolated pickup. There is a pickup onto Twitzy, though, coming in from Tanuki, who is just proving so much overwhelming zoning potential here. Keeping all of the pressure onto that doorway, allowing their entire team to step up with so much covering fire that this car just moves it uncontested.
Hasn't been any changes from Insomnia's comp so far. To be fair, I don't really think that that's the problem either, but now that we're going into more of a closed-in area, yeah, we're seeing the Human Torch be moved away. Twitzy feeling that he's maybe just too much of a target in the air for what Citadel Gaming are throwing down. And now you have a little bit more cover to work around. You also need to be a little bit more pacey and not too far away from having a Galactic Legend instantly.
A lot of damage on Tanuki, but they're able to tank on through. They took out Line Pro, though, with the burst. Doing so much work with this Horde of Proteus. The burst damage from Namor is one of their big strengths as well. You often see them on the flanks. Gamma Monstro and one squid with the right click means that you get a huge amount of damage output. And then, of course, Horde of Proteus for the big team fights is massive value. Pazuo falls to Tanuki. The damage output is good. And while this range of Ultron is creating a little bit of zoning, it's certainly not stopping the push.
It's not stopping anything at this rate. Maybe just buying a bit of time and making sure that it's not consistently on the go. But it really has just been like for Citadel Gaming just finding these picks, and it's been a while since Insomnia being able to just get 6 people fighting together. The Camera Revival is going to help to an extent, at least there, but the It's Jeff is going to grab a couple more players from Insomnia, bring them into the darkness and potentially catch them out. The Silent Seduction on top of this and the Invisible Barrier. I mean, Insomnia can't see a thing. It's a blind lead in the blind.
Ken was somehow able to eat Ultron. The one thing we said wasn't very likely, but he got it and then took the 1v1 once he'd been able to do so. Now Ken takes out Nocta. Melio's going to revive out of the cocoon. They have Karmic Revival of their own in case Insomnia are able to mount some kind of defense, but right now, everyone's just looking healthy. Paseo is going to fall. Relaxing Sky is just getting harassed incredibly by this Hulk. Nocta falls again, so no more cocoon this time. Melio's going to Karmic Revival for style points.
2 minutes 40 seconds pretty much on the clock for Citadel Gaming if they have to go for another attacking round. It sounds a little bit brutal, but like for something that wasn't a bad time. That could have been a lot worse. Yeah. But I think when I'm thinking about it, like all of the team engagements, like who won those fights, it was maybe 6 or 7 team fights that happened in that first part of the map. I'd say that Insomnia won maybe 1 of them. So they did well to just keep stalling out the fight, but stuff like Lion Pro being caught right as we moved into that 3rd checkpoint, it's just those kind of mistakes that teams can qualify to playoffs making those mistakes. But if you're going up against the big dogs, Citadel Gaming are going to completely ruin you if you give them that space to jump on you like that.
Speaking of potentially forcing mistakes, though, Lime Pro is trying to go for the Penny launch. You can see them starting off on the Penny Parker. This is a strategy where, one, if your teammates actually lock in a rocket, you could be setting up armor right now, but so far no one has done that. But 2, you can send out some mines, and hopefully, if people aren't paying attention, get an early pickup for the round before anyone starts, and that can really disrupt the defense. However, this is also potentially abusable, because if a team spots this, they can purposely take damage like Enzo has from the mines, and once the doors open, they can be healed up by whichever strategist you want the ult charged quicker on.
You see him shuffling around looking like, okay, which one's actually going to get the healing in? It's a few of them actually. He is also on controller, so him awkwardly shifting around is pretty accurate to how he's controlling the character. He's not just doing it to roleplay a little bit. Yeah, Citadel, last time that they played this map, they ended up losing it against Chopped. Not really wanted to make the same mistakes again. Pretty much keeping the same comp, but it is now 2-2 again with the Invisible Woman and Luna. You have got Melio switching over to playing a bit of Phoenix.
On the other side, Insomnia, they brought out the Magneto, giving themselves some protection for that Star-Lord and a little bit for the Venom, when they decide to go a little bit more aggressive. Also, the damage output they have from both Adam Warlock and that Ultron can be incredible, but they need good sight lines in order to make the most of it, while Citadel are utilizing cover to great effect. Paseo getting caught by Tanuki.
Now these fights tend to sort of fall apart like a house of cards. There it is. At least Forever's able to trade one, but that's pretty much how these fights have gone. One play for Insomnia, whether it's a Vanguard or a Strategist or a Duelist, goes down, and then 3 or 4 seconds later, you see the elimination feed just it fill up with blue names being sent back to the server. So Insomnia having to reset on this one, trying to do it cleanly to not give too much ult charge for Citadel Gaming on this defense, but Tanuki's got a good amount from just this little brawl that happened. He almost has that Horn of Proteus.
And so able to escape after being chased down by Twitzy, but unable to find that finishing blow. Range of Ultron is currently all that's available for Insomnia, but they will have more very shortly. Citadel, they have the Monster Hulk and Horde of Proteus, and we may see that used a little bit soon as Tanuki starting to spot that little inside rotation if they can get a good angle on this. Beautiful launch there from the Squids as they try to put that pressure onto Paseo, punish them for trying to put the pressure on the backline.
It's the Hulk's between a rock and a hard place, but he's hard enough to try and take those engagements. Unfortunately, no, Enzo is taken out. So this is a chance for Insomnia, trying to go more offensive with the Ensong Inferno just to slam down, see if they can get a couple more picks. And whilst they do, it's a trade, and it feels that Citadel Gaming are doing a pretty good job of like holding the line for the time being, that they're not losing too many players. Even with the Camera Revival being used from Insomnia, the portal play from Enzo means that it's going to be fast people jumping in to come in for the help, but also actually just winning the fight outright.
Horde of Proteus not even needed there. That's just enough damage from Tanuki as it is. Melio using that portal for cover. They actually caught Paseo mid-swing in that portal, forcing them onto the other side. Not exactly where they wanted to be in that team fight earlier. And while Paseo is still trying to delay as much as possible, they're just extremely outnumbered. And as they move back, the strategists are left vulnerable. Nocta and Line Pro fall.
So So far, Citadel Gaming not losing any progression or percentage on the point. Insomnia pretty much using 75% of their time allowed. Have a Rage of Ultron and a Meteor M for forever, but it's really going to be a case of build up as many ultimates as you possibly can. Maybe use them all together to just try and get through, but nobody from Citadel has been eliminated in quick succession. One player might go down, but it's usually that's about it, and it's traded the other side. They need multi-picks for Insomnia, and I don't know where it's going to come from.
They have been able to burn through the portal though, so with Enzo on this strange, if they can find an opening, then they still have 43 seconds to make something happen. Media M takes out Alex. That could be an opening here as they try to make their way forward. The invisible boundary will be expiring very shortly, and Ken is in fact dropping extremely low through it. Could be taken out, but with Twitzy down, Nocta needs to make sure that they stay up. If they can survive into that Karmic Revival, they can keep this fight going. Twitzy returning from spawn, and it looks like Insomnia would rather back up and regroup than take the risky revive. Going for an aggressive revive here to get forever right when they're about to respawn. They will commit to this fight.
Have to. There's only 10 seconds left, so it's pretty much throw the bodies on, try to force Citadel Gaming to take inopportune fights from bad positions. Being forced onto the backline is a good one, and the invisible boundary is going to make it a little bit more uncomfortable. Enzo goes down, but again, like I was saying before, the elimination feed. Where are the rest of the picks from Insomnia? You've got the Galactic Legend in use, but the fate of both worlds from Alex means that the focus has to go on to trying to take out the turrets from Tanuki. No other eliminations are coming in on side of Insomnia, so Citadel are holding on Alex by a sliver of HP, and now Melio's gone down, so this is a grand opportunity. You're making progression on the point, and finally, just at the breath texture, it is looking like Insomnia are going to take this first point.
All defenses for Citadel were gone for a while, and as such, we lost Melio again, who swapped over to the Psylocke so they can roll out quicker. Enzo moved from Strange, sacrificing an ult to Captain America so they can touch the point. We very nearly lose Relaxing Sky, and somehow Citadel are still fighting. Pasuo falls. We're seeing everything go down. Insomnia, they're almost built up to another Karmic Revival though, so it's up to Lime Pro, but no, they can't touch it, and that is going to be a hold by Citadel.
98% capture progression. That's a caster curse, Insomnia. I'm sorry. It's like, there's no way that they don't get this first point, right, guys? Right? But I don't. That's going to take some like looking back at the replay to just work out the nuance, the intricacies, I think, that came in from Citadel Gaming to just have the bodies on the line. Bear in mind that they don't have access to a Venom, I don't think, so they can't actually go for those fast rollouts. How did they get back in time when you don't have a portal play? It was just stalled enough, and it was efficient enough for Citadel to actually allow an extra fight.
Here are the key factors here. If you look at this end screen, Polly only went down once, Tanuki only went down once, and Ken didn't go down at all. Because of that, Polly touched the point repeatedly, allowing Enzo, after that Strange went down, they sacrificed the ult for Captain America to rush onto the point to delay even longer. When Melio went down, they swapped to Psylocke. It was always about making sure you get to the point quick enough, and once you do that, if you can force your way through Insomnia and just hold them long enough, the only real obstacle is that Karmic Revival, because the Rage of Ultron was tagged through because everyone was so split. They'd already taken down 2 members of Citadel. As such, they were able to pick them up before that Karmic Revival came out. Citadel were able to get the hold.
It really does feel like Insomnia have these moments where they're able to get picks, but it's like, how do you turn that 6v5 into an advantage, into tempo? Like, how does that string onto something else? And it felt that that second stage of the plan wasn't able to come to pass. Like, Insomnia sort of know how to play around these and make sure that they can go for a clean team wipe, able to win those engagements. It's just that Citadel were just so conniving and scheming almost that they were able to just stay survive. There were cockroaches essentially on that final point on that defense from Citadel. It was crazy.
Yeah, they didn't even have Adam Warlock of their own. It still felt like they kept reviving. It was just run fast. The kind of thing that you'd usually expect to see a Venom to get back onto the point quick, or even a Jeff, which was also banned. Well, Citadel 2-0 up in this best of 3. They might be able to move their way back into those upper bracket finals in this group to fight for that #1 seed spot. Insomnia, though, they still have the chance to bring it back. Let's find out what happens after this break. The drawbridge is raising as Citadel just beg Insomnia to go to sleep. But Insomnia, they are still awake, they are still fighting, and Convoy is where they're going to have to try and start the comeback.
It has looked like Citadel are taking no prisoners today, really. It has been a little bit of a difference, but that is expected when you have got the EMEA Stage 1 winners, and one of our teams that we sent to Guangzhou from the mid-season finals. So it is sort of expected that they are going to be hungry to make sure that they come out of their group as the top seed, and also hungry to get the revenge on Chopped if they win this map. For Insomnia, they do get the choice map again, and because it's a best of 5, they do get a free go at whatever Convoy map they want, but it has to be Convoy. We have to play all 3 of the game modes. If we do go to extra maps after this, the map pool basically opens up again, so long as it's not a map that we've seen before in the series.
Exactly. So we are heading to Yggdrasil for Eastgard. So path, this is a spawn hold map. While some teams are doing it pretty consistently, other teams are starting to move away from it. Chopped, Citadel, Na'Vi, all teams that don't like to do the spawn hold every single time. But starting off, we will see Citadel continue the theme. Goodbye, Mantis.
Is that 12 out of 12 so far this stage? Meanwhile, Insomnia have gone for a different strategist. So the first one, it was Jeff that they took out. The second time, it was Ultron, and now it's Adam. Holy Trinity. But it's because they want that one-sided one, just to make sure that they can confirm it. Because obviously, if they protect the Adam and then wait to ban it afterwards, there's a chance the Citadel go, oh, we're actually going to protect the Adam ourselves. But more than likely, they're going to go and protect the Jeff.
Let's see. Starting off with the ban onto Emma Frost. If Citadel want to play aggressively with stuff like potentially that Venom or Captain America, Emma's one of the great characters who can lock them down. Are they actually going to protect a one-sided Emma for themselves here? If they are planning on going for a spawn hold, it's a pretty solid option to leave up.
We saw it a little bit, actually. Sorry, yeah, so for other maps, it is like, yeah, they go for like the main protect onto Jeff, but that's typically stuff like Domination, where their bread is buttered. Here, because it is a convoy, we're going to be seeing a lot of that triple Vanguard, triple strategist, and Emma Frost is probably the main, like Mantis is for triple strategist, Emma Frost is for triple Vanguard. That she is the thing that really holds it together. The other option that you could, of course, go for, which Insomnia went for the ban, is making sure that there's no Strange, making sure that Citadel don't go for any portal plays on this defense.
And immediately Citadel going to be mirroring it, making sure that no one gets the reinforcements. The Venom will be banned out by Insomnia, so that if Citadel are able to sneak the Jeff in this protection spot, they do not have symbiotic shenanigans. So far, these teams are playing around the concept of these triple Vanguard, triple strategist setups. With the final protect for Citadel, they get
Mantis.
the Mantis. It is slipped through. Insomnia too focused on the Vanguard line and making sure that they get some revives.
I think it's a really key thing to do, because when you have characters like Mantis that is pretty much like, I think 80% of global bans across all of the regions so far for stage 2 minus China have been Mantis. Like, it is ridiculous how teams do not want to play her or play against her, notably. So if you're a team, it's hard to like practice it in scrims because you're just so used to it being banned out. So there have been a lot of teams where the Mantis has been let for a draft, and teams haven't really been able to use it to their full capacity because they clearly haven't had the chance to practice it all that much. So Citadel going, if you leave us Mantis open, we're going to take it second, is a good sign that they know how to play around the broken stuff.
Yeah, they are one of the teams who have had a little bit more experience when it comes to the Mantis in previous patches, although so far this stage, they haven't really been given that opportunity too much. However, Invisible Woman for Insomnia, making sure they get at least 50% of the solid, heavy backline as well, banning away the Invisible Woman from the side of Citadel. Luna, untouched by both teams, though, being allowed to get all the way through. She's pretty solid on the second points, but on first points, we will see Invisible Woman be prioritized a little bit higher, just due to the fact that Guardian Barrier and Force Physics can really force out positioning mistakes.
I do like him bringing out the Loki, one of the mainstay strategists across previous metas, but certainly this stage, it's the least that we've seen of Loki by a strong margin. But it's obviously going to be very good. He's probably going to be gunning, I think, for Nocta, assuming that he would be on the Adam Warlock, or whoever it's going to be, to just basically steal a karmic revival from the other side, which, good luck. Yeah. But you still have a lot of other strategist ultimates that you can take if you need.
plenty of options here. There is also the fact that if that Mantis is available, they can go for the full team up, get that extra wild wall healing, and of course the extra area and damage boost on the Loki regeneration domains. So there is a lot of options left available for Citadel here, and honestly, I'm really worried for Insomnia with this setup. There's so much incredible defense here. They're not even going for a 3-0-3 setup. They are actually going to be locking in the Namor with this, but their backline, Namor with the damage boost from Mantis or the damage boost from Loki now, while Ultron just dominates the sky. This is going to be hard to deal with.
Yeah, who's the focus when you're trying to dive in on them? Who's the weak link? Who do you need to sort of protect a little bit for Citadel Gaming? Because whilst Loki is a lot weaker, his anti-dive is still very strong. Assuming that somebody's like lagging out or crashed just as we started this map, there's going to be a brief pause before we get back into the action.
Quick pause while the teams deal with any potential issues. Maybe someone just needs the bathroom, as those first two series were a little bit quick. Either way, we just want to make sure that everyone is in optimal playing condition before we find out some of our new seedings heading into the playoffs, which, a reminder, start up next week. We'll be back bringing you all that playoff action, but of course we will be finding out the top seeds tomorrow, so there's plenty more games. Also, the Americas started this week as well, and they're making their way through their group stages, so that's some content for you later tonight. And when you wake up in the mornings, either on Bilibili you can watch the China games, or on Twitch you can check out OCE. I am starting to become a little bit of a Chopper Mag fanboy.
I mean, I was for Exodia really, because we saw some Mr. Fantastic protected, which I never thought we'd see. Didn't go well, but it was still nice to see in any case. It still says technical pause on screen, but as you see, the action is pretty much ready and back into it. 30 seconds pass from Insomnia, and they've managed to get a good amount of distance. It says it hasn't moved a huge amount, but the fact that it's moving is a big step up, because these defensive holds on Yggdrasil path can be a nightmare.
This is a really interesting positioning coming in from Citadel. You usually see teams hold on the building on the other side, but this time they choose to fight in this sort of side courtyard area with the balcony overlooking the environmental area, which could be risky if Enzo or Polly is able to get a good kill.
Tanuki.
But now Tanuki is continuing to pop off. They've got great cover here. They've got a health pack nearby. See you later, Invisible Woman.
Ultron's enjoying it for sure. I mean, every shot of these from Enzo, these CC stuns that have come in from the team up, it's pretty much perfect. It's enough to really stop some of the wind in the sails from Insomnia. And now it's looking pretty uncomfortable with the Rage of Ultron being the icing of the cake, forcing another reset from the attacking side.
The Monstros are getting picked off so quickly. Passivo returns, but look at the staggers as Passivo respawns. Forever and Line Pro go down. Relaxing Sky is now being targeted. In the meantime, Citadel just completely comfortable, hanging out in this courtyard while Melio pings away from max distance. Insomnia, something needs to change. They have the ultimates, so this might be their opportunity to move in. They're going to wait for that Meteor M, see if they can get a blow up onto someone, but they need to be so careful, because a well-timed regeneration domain, if you can land it in between the Endsong and the Meteor M, which is possible, then you can survive that engage.
Melio's quite low HP here, and you've got the World Breaker being used from Enzo, but he does get CC'd. It's still looking like the Endsong Inferno from Twitzy is going to be used mostly as a get-out tool. You can see that there was players of Citadel Gaming just keeping an eye on where he's going to drop to try and finish the job, but he's able to survive. Both teams, in fact, were pretty much all going, but Line Pro just gets dunked on from Tanuki as the Horn of Proteus comes through. But that's whilst Insomnia GG try to go on the offensive off the fate of both worlds.
They're trying to make something happen, but Relaxing Sky is now down as the ultimate expires, and every ultimate was used except for Horn of Proteus, and they found Ken. And that's about it. Nocta will get a pickup, will go down in exchange as Melio gets another pickup with the Encephalo Ray. And this is Citadel holding at the classic location of this first corner. They have complete control. They're not even fighting on the corner. They're still fighting on this flank.
Again, Castica, as I said, yeah, it's moving for Insomnia, and it hasn't moved since, I'm pretty sure. It's because of this hold, like this position for Citadel Gaming just seems like impenetrable, frankly. It's so hard to actually flush out where these defenders are going to be playing from, and every time that you do try to get a bit of a turn in, there seems to be a Rage of Ultron from Melio available. Now Nocta switched over towards the Namor on that side. He's trying to see if he can go for that engagement, and Tanuki was thinking he was winning that fight against Passivo, but the World Breaker gets used and he's trying to scarper away.
Polly actually gets picked off here. Remember, Citadel had the option to pick the rocket for the BRB, but are really more relying on that damage output and that high damage backline. But Nocta is actually starting to take advantage here. They're starting to pick up a couple members of Citadel while they start fight so split, but they still lose Twinsie. Insomnia, they are just struggling to find openings. They brought out the Groot to try and create more isolation, more holds, as Melio retreating on the flank, not wanting to get isolated and picked off while doing some damage onto the backline, is spotted by Relaxing Skies. Everyone is rushing in. This is Insomnia taking advantage, but now Citadel are back and now they're ready to team fight.
There's no Doctor Strange Pulse available for either team because it was banned out, so that Melio going down feels like it's going to be a lot more impactful in favor of Insomnia. They did well to try and push right at the end of Hulza Jajalia, but it wasn't enough to actually get past that first checkpoint. Is it going to be the same story here as Yggdrasil's path is going to be hit pretty hard with that Horn of Proteus that flies in from Tanuki, but nobody gets picked off. It's only afterwards that the Ensong Inferno is going to slam down to try and catch just a few more of these players on this defense of Citadel Gaming, and Tanuki now buying time as much as he can. Melio's going to try and get involved as well, but that payload's still not moving, and the wick is still in place as Insomnia very much on the point.
Down into banner, Enzo, it's time to pop off with the DPS, but in the meantime, they're still getting staggered. Insomnia are making the most of these early fights. Horn of Proteus sent into the choke point as the cart creeps forward inch by inch. Enzo already back into Hulk form, but is trying to stay through this with the range of Ultron through the doorway to try and hold this. Ken onto the Jeff, Polly onto the Captain America. They're rushing back in with speed. They think they can hold this. They're committing to this engage with half a meter, with a quarter of a meter to go.
Oh my God, no.
He's giving everything for this. He gives them his own life, and Ken trying to reinforce goes down, and once again it's the 1-by-1. Citadel, they're just feeding bodies onto the point, but it cannot sustain. Finally, Insomnia are able to push on through.
Finally, Citadel buying much time. I didn't know where that turnaround in the fight was going to come from because Ultimates was still just a little way out. Maybe if you survive a little bit more, Tanuki with the Horn of Proteus might be able to find stuff. But it's more the fact of like Citadel were very dedicated to holding on to the point. If they get off it at any point and it reaches that checkpoint, the spawns become a lot further away from Citadel. So any players around there on the defense are way out of position, and that could be heavily punished from Insomnia. So Citadel stalling there and not letting that happen was a major move, but it means that Insomnia have 4 ultimates to work with. They want to try and continue this momentum whilst they have it.
But he comes over the Ensong Inferno, will not find anything. Nox, they're going to capitalize, finds Alex on the flank though. And Insomnia, they're starting to just find people individually.
There it is. The big old Monstro to try and catch on to a bit, but the follow-up has been there, not really off the ultimates, but Tanuki has been getting a lot of these final hits in. It is going to force Insomnia. They've made good progression on the payload. Even that's a good position to actually have it finish in if needed, but up against the likes of Citadel, it feels that you have to pretty much finish out the map if you want a good choice here. Now it's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable to try and take the payload back with this position from the defenders.
Citadel's aggression is almost unparalleled, so like you say, we really need to see Insomnia get this further to be in with the best chance. But already, Rage of Ultron, Citadel are going to try and hold them at this gateway. We've seen this happen before, where teams have got huge holds onto this point. Tanuki is literally behind them with the Horn of Proteus, only half charged. This is just for damage.
He's just been a nuisance, and that side of Seduction connecting onto 4 players. They're all going to be pretty much mind controlled for a good portion of time. An invisible boundary required for Line Pro to keep them alive, but not for long. They still go down. It's a big strategist ultimate to use, especially after the Fate of Both Worlds shortly used beforehand. Means that you don't have much with 30 seconds left.
This is the power of flanking Namor, able to get behind Squid, right click, and if you land that right click, the Squids get the damage boost, they focus onto whoever you hit, and that person usually stops existing.
Yeah, you're done.
As I went back into Hulk, they're going to try and make their push onto the point. They have Horn of Proteus, they have Ensong Inferno, they have Monster Hulk. These are pretty insane tools. On the other side, Horn of Proteus, Monster Hulk, and just in right now is going to be an incredible push out coming in from Ken, who copies onto the Mantis for the Soul Rejuvenation to keep the fight going, and Tanuki, utilizing the damage boost from the Mantis, will just smash everything. Pun intended. Goodbye, Hulk.
It's not really going to be too much more for Insomnia in the group stages, at least. But Citadel, since they were knocked down to the losers bracket by Chopped, they have been gunning for that rematch. They're about to get it tomorrow, as we'll see them in that upper bracket for Group A.
This is looking pretty solid. Insomnia down to their last chance. If they don't get these points on the board, their spot is locked in. Second time into the group stage for Insomnia. They've already managed to match it. A lot of these players are incredible. A couple from the original Insomnia, a couple new people like Lime Pro coming in to prove that just how good they've been. And they're making waves. But it's time to make the biggest one you possibly can.
Yeah.
You need to hold Citadel. Ironically, with their name, they are a very aggressive team as opposed to a defensive team and are so hard to stop when pushes come in. Melio, for second, third time this stage, is finally being allowed to unleash off of a strategy and is being given the Punisher.
I mean, that's what went so well when they played Central Park, and whilst I'm sort of getting ahead of myself, I would say, of like, this is going to be hard for Insomnia to full hold. They have had some really good defensive sides, certainly from like the bits that we saw like yesterday and stuff. Like, this is not a team that have gone quietly into the night in some of these engagements. But it's more a case of like, you're being tested. The macro and the theory seems good from Insomnia, but the execution of said theory, especially up against the Citadel, is not afraid to make quick changes that are going to throw you through a wobbly. This first fight, this first hold is everything for Insomnia.
Forever onto the Captain America Passimo on the Venom. Even though they're going 3-0-3, they're going with a little bit of aggression to try and punish Citadel, who seems to just have that hyper carry on the backline. But so far, they haven't really been able to land any shots onto Tanuki. Melio's health bar has barely moved, as just overwhelming damage comes out. Nocta, Lime Pro both fall, but Lime Pro will return at the Battle Rebirth Beacon from that rocket, meaning they will be able to try and contest this at least a little bit more. Nocta can, of course, return themselves with the which they will choose to do so, but immediately Passimo goes down, and we're still just seeing Citadel picking them off one by one.
This is better though. This feels a lot stronger from Insomnia. Like, yeah, sure, I think when it comes to eliminations, it's been outnumbered by a lot. But up until now, again, I feel like I'm just cursing this Insomnia team, because they were able to sort of stagger out those eliminations against them, that they could keep coming back into the fight, and then suddenly Citadel get free at once, and it starts to string together. Relaxing Sky does have the YAM amplifier, but how are you going to take this fight? Certainly with the group trying to block off this engagement, it means that you're seeing the Rocket having to sort of dip onto the point as quickly as possible, and Polly just takes it down in a moment.
Got zapped by Tanuki on the way down as well. You know what happens to Raccoon when it's struck by lightning? Exactly the same thing that happens to everything else. Tanuki takes out Passimo on the retreat, and the hyper pressure being dropped by Enzo as they rush forward to try and stagger, to try and force Insomnia to not be able to get into that defensive position, which means that cart could keep moving, and Citadel are trying to just take this with speed.
Seeing a lot of emotes as well from Citadel. Comfortable, but with the Strangler Prison here, Polly still has tempo in his favor. Insomnia don't want to overstep, they don't want to be caught out, and at least they're forcing back this engagement. The group has to respect this. But is the Strangler Prison going to be used in this corner? He's thrown it down, but it's an instant response with the invisible barrier. It might not be enough though when the final judgment just cuts through that certain circle of fighting. Melio jumping up and down as well, just off the back of the Rocket Raccoon, I think was just able to get the bounce in, bounced up, and cleared up everybody on the side of Insomnia. Nobody's left.
And here comes the Mega Hurricane, just in case anyone touches the point so that they take enough damage, but it's not even needed. Everyone was back in spawn, and that is a convincing Citadel 3-0 in this series. They move on for the run back.
Yeah, now actually going up against Chopped. Bit of revenge on the cards, a full best of 5. And Insomnia, a lot to take in for next week. It feels like the disparity here, like Citadel were the favorites, and when they go down and lose, they tend to sort of bounce back very quickly. Same with the likes of Virtus Pro that we're about to see after this series too, that they know how to rewrite some of the mistakes that they end up making. Insomnia, they can take a lot from this, and you still have a good 5 to 6 days before we get into the actual playoffs. It just means that you're going in as a 3rd seed, so it's potentially looking at an Na'Vi Virtus Pro phase, depending on how those results go.
Quick shout out to Polly, by the way, for actually having the highest damage in the game, including Tanuki, who was constantly being damage boosted on that Namor, and Melio, who was constantly being damage boosted on the Ultron, and yet Polly is the one who comes out on top because they also got damage boost, and Emma is terrifying. Fully charged, even after the nerfs, the damage is incredible, and you do not want to be taking her on in the 1v1.
Now it means that it is a top seed on the line for Citadel versus Chopped. I'm trying to remember if we did see Berber Patspin being the top seeds out of their group. I'm pretty sure they were, because it was Rad and Virtus Pro in the other one. So maybe it is just trying to run back that same level of success, I suppose.
First out of their group was Zero Tenacity.
Oh, Z10, yeah.
Took them in a 3-2 in the finals of that group. So this is not an unfamiliar situation for the side of Citadel. They have found themselves in a situation where they might come out of the groups in second. So it is doable.
It should be, for sure. But I think that Chop team is looking, honestly, Atlanta ready. It's just a bit of luck in some places, but a good series, the good sort of meta drafts, and, you know, a bracket to go your way where you can avoid playing Virtus Pro, Navi, and potentially Citadel Gaming in the losers bracket, whichever it might be. You have a good chance of getting there. So I do think that this seeding game there's a lot on the line, despite the fact that it is just for seeding. It feels like it's going to be a statement for Chopped if they can make it 2 for 2, or whether Citadel Gaming can regain control of this group and make sure that they come out the top dog out of this one.
We have found ourselves in an extremely frustrating position as a region once again. Last stage, we looked at it and we were like, okay, 3, maybe 4 teams could go. Realistically, it ended up being 3, but we only have 2 spots. This stage, it feels like 4, maybe 5 could go, and we only have 3 spots. So no matter what, we're still going to miss out on some of our amazing talent at this international event. I would love to see all of the teams in playoffs get their chance at that global finals, but it's going to come down to the best of the best. And like you say, your position in that playoffs bracket is so important to maximize your chances.
Yeah, and it really is going to be a case of like taking those playoff games a game at a time, which is why I'm not too worried about Insomnia like after this, because again, I feel like there's a lot to take from how Citadel played this, what their response was to your drafts and stuff, what you can do elsewhere, and actually just a lot of things that went wrong in some of those team fights that felt that they were very one-sided in favor of Citadel. But also, there was a lot of great picks for Insomnia. It's just the follow-up. How do you turn a pick into progression onto a point, an extra couple of meters on the payload? How do you turn it into a win condition? That felt a little bit too hard for Insomnia to get anything out of it today.
But they now have the chance to go away. They don't play again at any point in these in the group stages. They now have the entire rest of this week and the beginning of next week to go and prepare. I say the rest of this week. They have tomorrow and the beginning of next week.
One day.
To practice, to just work out any of the kinks in their strategies and be prepared for those playoffs. And they can watch today and tomorrow's games to work out who they're going to be up against. So they're in that situation now where it's scouting time. Speaking of scouting, though, Citadel are going to be doing the same. They will have 100% been doing their research. They already seem to know, if you listened to the interview yesterday, what they think went wrong against Chopped. Chopped, though, they have had much more time to continue to watch how Citadel are playing.
Yeah, I think the main thing that kept coming up from the interviews from Citadel was we just didn't play well on the day, which, if I remember correctly, is what they did say a lot at Guangzhou in the mid-season finals. Like, we know that we're better than this. We just played poorly in those actual series, which I get. Sometimes it is just like, it is what it is. On the day, you're just the worst team. But that is hard to get better at. Like, you can become more flexible, but is there a performance issue in there? In those series that you get a little bit nervy and a little bit scared, where if qualification's on the line, you can't afford to have a bad day. So how do you make sure that you don't? That's really hard to nail down for Salah and all of the coaching staff for Citadel Gaming.
Very true. It's been very impactful having Salah as that coach. A lot of the players have cited just how much of an impact they have. The environment of this team has really been touted by the players and also external observers as well. But when you lose those games, it's hard to keep that motivation up. That is why these personalities can be so important. And wow, we summoned him. Say his name and he shall appear. Please welcome the coach of Citadel. Please welcome Salah.
What's up? How you guys doing?
How are you doing? For starters, let's start off with the obvious question. It's time for the rematch tomorrow. Are you guys ready for Chopped?
Probably. I think they're decent. I think we were not that good when we played them the first time. We're doing a lot of interesting things, but I think we're a lot better now. So it should be a fun game. I mean, I'm just going to say in my head, most of these teams don't shoot back. I think it just depends on if we decide we're going to play that day or not. If we decide we're going to play even VP or these teams, I don't think it's really that close. But it depends on us. I think, you can lose always. And I think it will just depend on how we feel that day and if we're ready to go. And if we're not, it will be fine because... I mean, these seeding tournaments, they're cool, but I don't think they matter too much in the grand scheme of things. I think what we care about more is what's going to happen next week. And I think, as we saw last time, when it comes to next week, we'll be a lot more prepared and a lot better. So, yeah, I think it'll be fun. We'll have fun.
Sure. I don't know if you heard us talking about it just before you joined, about like that whole we played poorly on the day seems to be... Like, it was said a lot of the mid-season finals from talking to Enzo and stuff like that, of just like, you guys know how good you are, but you weren't able to hit that kind of level of performance in the games that mattered. How do you even like tackle that as a coach? Because I know that you're more like man management, making sure that the players are confident and stuff. Is that like almost like a performance coaching thing? Is that the pressure of big games get into them? Or is it just like weird drafts and stuff that you weren't expecting? Like, what element of play has been going wrong for Citadel in those games where you could have done better?
I think it's comms in general for us. It's not about drafts. I mean, the last 3 games, we haven't been drafting in a serious way whatsoever. We've just kind of been playing whatever we want to play. And we asked the boys for the game, what do you want to play? Okay, let's play that. It's not about draft, or it's not about pressure. My team generally gets better when the pressure is higher. Compared to other teams, I think it's more so consistency with comms and consistency with how we want to play the game. Sometimes we get into the habit of losing sight of what's important in a game, and that's why you can have games. If you go watch back like stage 1, we had games against certain teams where we were dominating them the whole game and we still lose the game because we don't focus on the objective of the game. We focus on just killing them all, and we're really good at killing them all. We're really good at just completely mechanical diffing everybody, but sometimes we do lose sight of the actual game itself. So I think it's more so that it's a little bit of consistency when it comes to just finishing out games and knowing how to, again, finish a game. I think when we have that, it's really hard to play against us, I would say. I wouldn't want to play against us.
So does this mean if you guys are more focused on the actual team environment and just playing well yourselves, that you don't really have a preference about where you end up when it comes to the other groups? Because obviously, depending on your match tomorrow and today's match, you could be against Vice, FaZe, or Virtus Pro. So is there no preference there? You're just focusing on your own game?
We focus on ourselves, but I wouldn't mind playing against any of them. I think some of these teams are getting a little bit too overconfident, to be honest. Like I've heard some of the ways people are talking and some of the ways they act. It's like they forget what happened stage 1. It's like they forget certain realities. So I wouldn't mind playing against any of them. They're all the same to me. There's nothing special about any of them, really. I think Na'Vi are decent. They have really good structure, and yeah, but I think I don't mind. I don't have a preference, and I think we're just going to play to be the best version of ourselves, and whatever the outcome is from that, the outcome will be.
Yeah, you're very good at rising to the occasion, but it's going to be a great game to get tomorrow, no matter what, Salah. So I'm excited for it. Excited to see you guys play in playoffs as well. So again, congrats for today, and we'll see you tomorrow for the upper bracket finals in your group.
Thank you.
That was a very solid win. Citadel making the note there and making the statement that it's about their game. They believe that if they play well enough, it's over. they can just continue all the way and become two-time EMEA champions. As you can see in that bracket, the group for Group A is essentially decided. We have one more series, Chopped versus Citadel, that will be happening tomorrow to decide who comes out of that group in first and who comes out in second, meaning that tomorrow's game will decide who will be the opponent, most likely of Vice from Group B.
It's going to be who's going to